Tonight on The Roast, the moral guardians of the universe ask police for a get-out-of-jail-free card, and I think Sydney might have been invaded this morning. But first...
The Labor Party has extended the deadline for members to vote on its federal leadership, meaning members now have more time to choose who gets the honour of reshaping Tony Abbott's arse groove on the opposition front bench. It's the first time in the party's 112-year history that members have been able to elect Labor's leader. An extension was required due to delays in getting ballot papers to members, because some live in regional areas. Also, many of them are dead. Typical Labor Party delays. You wouldn't see this happen at the Coalition, because instead of sending ballot papers to people's homes, they'd just send them to the node. The Australian Electoral Commission has declined a request from the Greens and the Australian Sports Party for a vote recount of the WA Senate results. Worse yet, they won't return the Sports Party's frisbee. Although the result was extremely tight, the AEC won't go ahead with a recount because the request did not identify any specific issues. And definitely not because no one wants to spend another month recounting the 1.3 million Senate ballot papers cast, and definitely not because they're already recycling the ballot papers, and definitely not because they don't want to unfold 1.3 million paper cranes that Japanese intern made. And if you woke up this morning feeling like the world had changed, you were right. Gambia has withdrawn from the Commonwealth. No reaction yet from Buckingham Palace except wah, wah. That was baby Prince George. He loved Gambia. Now this is usually where I'd make a cutting remark about Gambia, but I gotta level with you, I don't know a whole deal about Gambia. Let's ask ABC News.
The Gambian president claims he can cure AIDS.
Oh great, now who's gonna cure AIDS at the Commonwealth Games? And finally, New Zealand teenage singer-songwriter Lorde has reached the #1 on the US charts. Wow, well done, Australian teenage singer-songwriter Lorde. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Thanks, Mark. And I have to say, I'm glad we just covered an inspirational story about a successful teenage songwriter, because I'm about to ruin your day. Documents have been released that show the Catholic Church tried to arrange memorandums of understanding with the New South Wales police force that would have allowed the church to withhold evidence of child sexual abuse from criminal investigations. But before you get on your high horse, remember, it's God's job to judge them. But let's judge them now. You were bad people, and I hope you go to that hell that you invented. And before that, prison. Because according to the Greens MP David Shoebridge, who discovered the documents, the church wanted to effectively give the accused priest a veto power about whether or not to provide crucial information to the police, which means an accused priest could have decided whether or not incriminating evidence was given to the people who were trying to investigate him.
Do you think we should give the knife to the police?
No.
Right.
Now, these two documents were drafted in 2003, one by the church and one by police, but both were unsigned. Despite that, the Catholic Church says they operated like it was a done deal.
We had a line of communications with the police and all indications were that the MOU was approved.
But the Child Protection Squad disagrees, saying the draft unsigned MOU has not been approved by the New South Wales Police Service. The Catholic Church confusing the understanding part of a memorandum of understanding with, we have an understanding, right? We're cool. You don't need to actually sign the stuff. You get it. Or maybe they just convinced themselves that the signature existed despite never seeing it personally. Either way, Jazz Twemlow wants to have a word with them.
I'm here at the church. Because the church is the gateway to heaven, a lot of people are willing to turn a blind eye to all the horrible things God's employees are doing. Unfortunately, there is no heaven, so this news story is essentially about letting people who've taken advantage of the most vulnerable members of society manipulate the law just because they happen to work in an old building in costume. Of course, people are welcome to believe whatever they like, but just be aware that clinging to a best-selling novel from 2,000 years ago has nothing to do with the legal process, which means the church and the police need to be brought up to speed on how their relationship should function in 2013, an era where the church doesn't get to dominate the secular authorities while they peddle harm like some sort of spiritual asbestos company like they did hundreds of years ago. Your Eminence, may I ask you a question, only if it pleases you, of course?
You may speak, my son.
Well, I just wanted to ask you about all those crimes you've committed. There's a lot of them.
Let me check. God says no.
Of course. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Now, of course, religion traditionally has had some say in the legal system. It did come up with the first 10 laws. The problem is, since then, we've come up with all the other laws, and God hasn't told the church any different. In fact, rumor is they haven't heard from him since science. So perhaps it's time we legally brought the church into the 21st century. So where were you last night?
God says I don't need to tell you.
I say that you do.
We have a memorandum of understanding.
Which we didn't sign. And we have laws now and DNA profiling, and that memorandum is effectively a confession that you've done something you don't want to tell the police. You should be in prison.
Thanks, Jazz. And finally tonight, this morning, more than 20 warships from 17 nations, including the United States, United Kingdom, France, India, Singapore and China, entered Sydney Harbour in what to Syria would be a terrifying event is, for Australia, back to normal. And a chance to celebrate 100 years since the Royal Australian Navy fleet first entered the waterway. It's all part of what's called the International Fleet Review and will be a week of naval celebrations and activities. Kind of reminds me of that movie Battleship, and that it sounds really expensive but won't make any money. And with that many warships in the harbour, it will also mark quite a departure from the normal view for anyone with waterfront properties.
Honey, the asylum seekers have really stepped up their game.
In the lead up to the event, Vice Admiral Ray Griggs, AO, CSC, RAN, RUN, DMC versus Jason Nevins invited over 50 nations to choose a warship and/or a tall ship to participate, causing them more anxiety than buying a gift for a loved one.
So, which boat did you want to send to the fleet review in Sydney this weekend?
Just send our biggest ship.
Certainly.
Wait, is that too much? I don't want to be that guy. Maybe just send one of the shittier ones.
Certainly.
Wait, what if everyone else sends a big one? Just send a medium one.
Certainly, sir.
Wait, but pack it with missiles. That country is ripe for the picking.
The arrival of the flotilla is expected to cause traffic chaos around Sydney, with the longest queues anticipated outside King's Cross brothels. Along with the influx of sailors, though, the city will also be flooded with players and fans coming in for the NRL Grand Final. So Sydney-siders, good luck trying to find anyone who can't kill you with his hands. And aside from the more formal events, other activities planned for the week-long celebrations include some inter-Navy sporting competitions. So be sure to stand well back as the navies of China and America take each other on in games of pin the torpedo on the donkey, 3,000-pound clay pigeon shooting, and football, whether football is a mine. Of course, with so many countries sending their boats, Sydney Harbour will for this weekend be the most secure harbour in the world, or if the event goes poorly, the most dangerous. And with the ships open for inspection, it'll be a perfect opportunity for sailors from other countries to size up their competition like it was their neighbour's open house inspection.
Wow, I really like what they've done here. The colour scheme, it really opens the place out. What's the storage like?
Ample storage. I really like what they've done with the missiles too.
Oh yeah, we could fit in at least 3 more if we stacked them like that.
And harbour views.
And the sleep 400.
Only 3.5 bathrooms though.
Ugh. And they wonder why they lost World War II.
Speaking in support of the event, the head of the Australian Navy, Rear Admiral Tim Barrett, said, "There's a bright future for what we do." Although some would argue that a bright future for the Navy is one where what we do is no longer necessary. But Barrett added, "It's important to look back, but more importantly, we take those lessons and look forward." Although by inviting every other country to send its Navy, our Navy seems to have decided not to look back to lessons learnt from the Trojan War. Now, the fleet will depart next Friday to participate in some war games where
the RAN will have another chance to fly the flag during Exercise Triton Centenary.
Now, I'm not saying we should doubt that, except Triton Centenary is an anagram of ancient rent Troy. The Greeks are coming back, and they want our rent money. Oh, and one more thing before we go, Prince Harry's in town. Oh, and ladies, I'm spending the long weekend in Sydney too. Good night.
No thanks.